Oh, yeah. That's right. We're back. We are back here again in the Steam tunnels. We are the Steam Gentlemen, and we are the show that dares to point out to you they're drinking Kool-Aid Man's blood, okay? Like, can we just all get around and coalesce around this concept here, all right? A giant pitcher of actual Kool-Aid busts through the wall, proceeds to say, oh, yeah, and then pour you a serving of his blood into a cup to pass it around, and everybody drinks it joyously. Like, is it? I mean, am I the only one who's seeing this? I mean, is there?
I mean, now that you put it that way, I feel like I should get stoned when I drink Kool-Aid,
something,
or at least get a rush.
I mean, something should happen.
So
Right?
we're assuming of the three fluids that it's blood. Let's go ahead and hope that it's blood.
I'm gonna hope it's blood. I didn't want to lead with the others.
Well, if it is blood, here's the problem. That's oxidated blood, because if it's internal, then it should not be red. So we can go in that direction. Let's hope of the three, made fluids, it is blood. And then the second part is, I always looked at those commercials as like little mini vignettes to like Red Dawn sequels. Like, hey, are you a Wolverine? You're gonna drink this? Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm just wondering, like, how much does he have to give? How much time does it take him to replenish this? And why does he have a picture of it in his hand the entire time when he's running around the city, just breaking through random walls?
Well,
he prepped.
Precision, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Give me that.
It's either coming from the spout on top of his head or something in his hand. And on top of that, he can't guarantee what's going to get inside him once he breaks through all that concrete and plaster and
right?
wood and sheet and all that stuff that makes up buildings. I mean, the guy's somewhat of a pragmatist.
And he's also one of the strongest motherfuckers on the planet, because, like, you notice, for years he broke through concrete, he broke through brick. I mean, just boom, not even a second question. So I think that there may have been steroids in his system, and he's given the steroids to the kids, and we need to protect the children. Maybe that's what the moral of the Kool-Aid Man story is kids don't do steroids.
Yeah, kids don't do steroids.
Unless you want to be insanely strong and break your way through walls, which therein lies.
Unless you skip leg day.
I'm gonna have to say, kids do not drink from anything that comes from something that just bursts through a wall randomly.
I think that is a sound take.
Solid advice. I can't argue
solid.
with
that. That is solid advice. I think
I'm gonna go ahead with that.
I think we can all land on that none of us are pro drinking from something that just busted through a wall. And Greg made the point about skipping leg day, and we are about to talk about the man who never skips leg day. That's right. We are here today to talk about Batman, or mostly in this case, the Batman. Yeah, that's right. I got an extra ab. whether you're a Tim Burton guy, whether you're going all the way back to the 1940s, in film shorts, whether you're a 1960s guy, my neighbor, God rest his soul, I wish he was still around to listen to this show. He was the big 1960s, Batman, Eartha Kitt as Catwoman, the whole nine yards, right? All the campiness and everybody, Cesar Romero playing the Joker.
God bless him. God bless that man.
He really, he was all about that. Actually had his his cars all said his license plates were all vanity plates that said Batmobile or Batwagon, something like Batwagon. I think he had for a couple of those things. So hardcore on the 1960s, which certainly had it's hard to question that aesthetic. They knew what they wanted out of that show, and they certainly went for it whole hog. Though, let's face it, Bruce Lee is still kicking Robin's ass. No two ways.
No question. Right.
That's I think it's called back to last week, because that's just the facts of the matter that happened. But well, a big start here. Spoiler alert: if you have not seen the Batman and you wish to see the Batman, push stop right now. Go watch it. Then come back and watch this listen to this episode. Listen to us doing our thing. We don't want to spoil anyone's fun. We are, good-hearted nerds, all three of us. And, we're not out to rain on anyone's parade. We tried to wait a few weeks before we did this one. But fact is, we can't talk about it without giving away some spoilers. So if you haven't seen it and you want to see it, not the episode for you. We totally get that. Come back around, hit us back up, in a couple of weeks. If you have seen it and you want to hear us talk about it, then you stick around. Or if you don't want to see it and you'd like to hear us talk about it, definitely stick around, because that's like, you're our prime audience, honestly. you're the
I don't know what other options you could give them. I mean, that was it.
Here's one I'm going to toss out there. We have like 50 episodes. So if you want to just go back,
there you go. Yeah.
Listen to TSG from the start, and move your way through our catalog, you can do that as well. I mean, we're not here to tell you what to do with your time, other than, perhaps spend it with us.
Spend it with us. Also go to Apple iTunes and rate and review us. We highly encourage that. Officially, this is episode 46, but yes, RaShaun's right. We're over 50 because we did a couple of 2-parters there in the beginning when we were still kind of getting used to our style and getting used to our flow there. So we are in that flow. We are in that style right now. And we are here, we're here to hardcore talk about Batman, talk about the Batman, how it stacks up to some of the other things in the classic. I'm on record right now. I'm a Marvel guy. I really do love me some Marvel over DC, except I would argue Batman is still my favorite superhero. So that's a big thing. Like, I'm setting him aside, even though I like the other universe. I like the other universe better. Absolutely think the Batman is the way to go. And I don't know, just always had that affinity for him. So I'll start that off. But Greg, I was thinking about just letting you start off, unless Three of Clubs. I didn't know if you had something else to interject with there.
Oh no, I was ready to go. I'm good.
See, even when I'm not trying to throw him under the bus, I throw him under the bus. I can't help myself. I'm like the Joker. I just want to see what happens. I just want to see the reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so right. Was that our intros? Are you baiting me into go into our intro? Because you didn't do our intro.
I am trying to bait you to go into an intro. I'm totally messing with you.
Since our host is taking the day off, apparently, pulling some. I was gonna make a joke, but I'll leave it for no recording. So, Greg, how you doing today?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
don't worry, I care.
Yeah, that's right. He didn't do that. Doing all right, ready to talk about this. And I've been kissed by a rose on the gray.
Ooh.
Oh,
and that was I should fall.
That gets a seal of approval.
Oh,
and Josh, you too.
On the gray.
Oh, coming on back in. No, that was, well, firstly, always Greg gets our heart going to pitter pat. But RaShaun, how are you doing today? After I've totally fucked up the intro and stuck my dick in the dirt. We're all good. How we doing today?
Hashtag no kink shame.
Exactly.
I'm doing it like I'm doing it for TV. And you, sir, the prince of Three of Clubs. Actually, I guess Greg would be, no offense, but one of the two of you. How are you guys doing?
Oh, well, I'm doing quite well today. It's a beautiful day. Got the kids out to the playground a little after school, and they are safely ensconced in screens down there. And we're about to take off. We're about to take off to the corporate evil that is Disney, and I'm doing it right after school vacation. So I'm contributing to the moral and cultural decline of America. It's I'm doing my part to make sure the intellectual decline continues as well.
You make sure you have a gay old time down there in Disney World.
Without a doubt, that will definitely be happening. It will be a gay old time. It will be loudly said as a gay old time and all that. Somebody said to me like, "Oh, you can't call your boys," like with some disgust today to me. And I'm like, "No, I can." And other people can. That's never been the issue. If my boys ask to be called something other than that, that's when I'm not supposed to do it. But again, not going to waste my breath on it because clearly no understanding of the issue at hand, but that's okay. And we are moving on. Well, I want to personally thank RaShaun for saving my bacon, of course, as I fuck up the intro to my own show, which is just it's something I can do, it's something that is uniquely me. But we are here. We are back in those steam tunnels. We are here to discuss the Batman. So let's hand it on over to the Star Child, get him going here and get him in his 10 minutes in the hot seat to talk about the Batman.
The Batman. Because a raspy voice makes you the Batman. And a fuck ton of money. I mean, here is my thing. Like I always do my very detailed, critique. And my first critique is, was I entertained? You know what I'm saying? Like, did it make me laugh? Did it, make me jump out of my seat and stuff like that? And it did at certain points. It was just like one of those things where it's like I was waiting for it to hit a little bit more, but you just kind of get it's really moody. It's really moody. So you really get sucked into all of the droning music and the low light and the really long shots. Like you really get sucked into all of that. And I don't know, I definitely didn't get the feeling from it that I usually get from most Batman movies. I will say that. I mean, that's not to say that Batman doesn't kick some ass in it, like he definitely violates some civil liberties. He don't give a fuck about the Constitution. He just goes through with this and we're gonna worry about the details later. You picked the wrong side of this dispute, my friend. So there's definitely some cool parts. Visually, it's really cool. I wasn't against Pattinson as Batman. I think he did okay. Yeah, I think I was really kind of okay with it. It lost me a little bit more when I realized just how much of a ripoff of Seven it was. Now, I don't call movies a ripoff unless it's like beat for beat that movie. You know what I mean? And it's the beat for beat that I'm talking about. Like it's an old grizzled black cop and this young white hotshot being led around by a serial killer who's trying to make a greater point. And then, when I say beat for beat, like they have to find these clues and figure out the clues, which leads them to the next killing, which he's also trying to make a point with. And then the part where he turns himself in, it was like, okay, what the fuck? What the fuck? Like this is literally this, and he turns himself in so that now he can spring the rest of his nefarious plan. And it's like, yeah, this is fucking Seven. Now, to be fair, a young person probably wouldn't get too worked up about that because, tie your shoelaces, Seven did come out like 25 years ago. So if
God damn.
Sorry. It did come out like 25 years ago. So, a younger person would be forgiven for not making that connection right away. But for me, it did make me enjoy it a little bit less because, just like, that Star Wars movie that happened, I don't fucking remember, but, like when it's like beat for beat another movie, all right, then yeah, you've gotten a little drab, you've gotten a little tired. I definitely, once I made that realization, liked it, enjoyed it a little less. I was at that point, I was definitely like, okay, movie, you can end now. You can end. Okay, you're still going on, movie, and movie, you can end. So would I recommend it to somebody to see? Honestly, I was in that situation the other day, and a friend of mine who, is younger than me, he said he hasn't seen it yet. And I said, have you seen Seven? And he said, no. And I was like, see Seven. It's better. It's better. It's shorter. It did it first. It did it better. I mean, just everything about it is just honestly better. So I just see Seven. Just see Seven. Where does this rank for me as a huge Batman fan? I think the Batman Arkham games and Batman the animated series for me, quintessential Batman. I mean, the Batman nails every one of the characters and the villains and absolutely nails the mood. I think it's absolutely perfect. But as far as Batman movies, I mean, this is it's definitely better than, like, I don't know, Batman and Robin.
Oh, Jesus.
But instead of, okay, let's put it this way, instead of Dark Knight Rises, which I really, it didn't happen. Anyway, instead of that, I would put that, like, I'd say this is still definitely in my top 5. Definitely in my top 5. Like, it would be, this is off the top of my head, I'm not sure if this is like my list, but it would definitely be like 1989 Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises, Batman Returns, and The Batman. Honestly, if I was going to put it in a real list, like, this is a very well-made movie. Catwoman, she worked. Yeah, Zoe Kravitz, I think it was Zoe Kravitz who played Catwoman. She was good. I was expecting her to throw in at least one perfect. I would have loved it if she threw in a perfect, but she didn't.
Thank God she didn't.
She did. I would have loved it. I'm just saying. That's just me. I would have liked at
You're
least
a liar.
one.
I know you too well. You would have been ripping that in half right now.
Perfect. But
President Johnson, send our troops home from Vietnam. It's an unwinnable war.
Oh yeah, Eartha Kitt did that. Yeah, she did. But she was good. The action was good. Obviously, the scene where the penguin's getting chased down, that was just badass. A quick note to the real bat nerds out there. I don't know exactly when this movie was supposed to be, because he's still getting into it. Like, he's still trying to get his bat mojo on. And it shows, because there's some parts where Batman just he does not stick the landing, both literally and figuratively. He does not stick the landing. But both. At the same time, there's
taking the words out of my mouth,
right? But there are also other points where it's just like, dude, that's fucking dumb. Like, really? Like, there are parts where you're like,
am I the only one speaks Spanish?
Stupid. Seriously. The greatest detective in the world, or at least working towards it, doesn't want to use Google Translate. You just destroyed like fucking 3 miles of public and private property because you didn't want to Google something. Goddamn well you don't speak Spanish, and you trying to find a serial killer. Why are you guessing? What would make you fucking guess? But just little moments like that, it doesn't quite click, and it does feel a little bit goth rom-com sometimes between him and because Catwoman, like I said, she works, she's great, but she is a little angsty, because she's supposed to be younger too, so she is a little angsty and edgy. And they throw in they try to change around some parts of the story, and they throw in a good amount of melodrama. I say melodrama because the story didn't need it. It didn't need it. Like, her going after John Turturro because he killed her friend was plenty. We didn't need the whole melodrama of him being her dad. We didn't need that. We didn't need that. He ain't Vader. Like, we didn't need this fucking, we did not need this half-assed twist at all. And we didn't need the whole thing with his father being, we didn't need that. Like, the Riddler wants to kill Bruce Wayne because he's a, ineffectual rich asshole. We're done. We don't need all of this stuff with, the gangster and his father. And because we know it's going to turn out to be bullshit. And then it does. And then it turns out to go nowhere. So it didn't help the story at all. Like, it was just like this, 20-minute tangent of him spray painting on the floor for some. I thought I was a visual learner, but dude needed to fucking clear out a whole fucking room and spray paint on the floor.
This is my process.
Right, it's my process.
At least he didn't try to buy Twitter.
It's what he already knew. That's why I was like, I thought I was a visual learner, because he spray paints that, looks at it, and then goes over and checks some files. I'm like, really? You could have just went straight to the fucking files. Like, you moved the table that you could have put the files on, but you moved it so you could just do some shirtless graffiti in your own mansion. All right. But anyway, like I said, it gets a solid C from me. It was beat for beat 7. Only 7 did it better. So I would say go see it. Go watch 7.
All right. Well, that's a clear, concise. I liked your beat for beat breakdown. Absolutely. I guess I feel a little bad. I feel like maybe, well, I'm giving myself too much credit here as always. But when I leaned over to you in the theater and said, "What's in the box?" maybe did that ruin it for you? Or
I was already saying I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to talk too much because it was like I said, it was such a quiet, moody movie. Like you really didn't want to talk too much, but. Yeah, I mean, they basically traded in what's in the box for what's under the carpet. What's under the carpet? And then he goes and gets what's under the carpet, which, again, like Batman doesn't know that this is a carpet tool. This is a carpet script. He didn't know that.
He's young. He didn't know Spanish either. So I mean,
he didn't know Spanish.
Yeah, right. He didn't know Spanish.
I think he was at that point his neighborhood's greatest detective, not the world's. Like he was good for a few blocks, but after that, he wasn't to fall down.
He wasn't even the greatest detective on Reddit. He wasn't even there.
Well, that covers the world. Internet covers the world. Reddit's that's a little bit more than him.
Not even Reddit.
He was working his way outward. I mean, that's it. Like your small circles, just like we are here, right? We, get a Boston audience, get a national audience, international audience. Sorry, Russia. We know you're probably not listening to us anymore, but
yeah, they probably are. It just isn't sanctioned. Which, by the way, to those listening in Russia on unsanctioned radios, you're heard, you listened to, you're loved, you're part of the world community. We know this ain't your fault.
Absolutely.
Except for the ones who hate black people. Fuck y'all. Like,
yeah.
I know there's a Venn diagram in what I just said. So for you, caught in the middle, fuck you. I'm not talking to you.
Yeah. I also cross over with Jews too. I'll just throw in my people.
There you go. Put that in there too.
Same Venn diagram.
Well, this shout out disintegrated. That shout out fucking just was unless you're a homophobe. Because fuck you.
Yeah.
Because fuck you too.
Yeah, fuck you.
Fuck you too. Yeah.
Lakers fan. Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Hey now. Hey.
The two Boston sports fans. Like the only Boston sports that all three of us agree on are the Red Sox. So go Sox, kid. All right. Yep. This is just the way that is.
I'm not against the Browns. I'm not against.
Okay.
The problem. Right. Look. We're going to talk about Batman, and that's what we're here to do. But don't pull me off on a tangent on Boston fans, because you guys, if you hear the right conversation, you're not from Boston, you would think that there's no more loyal of a fan base. You would think next to family code of honors, people are passing down fandoms in Boston. However, I'm here to tell you, as someone who's been an adopted masshole for pretty much his entire life, these are some of the most fair weather fans you'll ever come across. Ask how many of these diehard name their kid Brady Patriot fans out there what the record was last season. Just ask them what the record was. Have them cover their phone. They can't use a phone like good old the Batman who couldn't figure out Spanish. So, cut off their ability to figure it out and ask them just a simple question. What was the record last year? And I guarantee you the majority, I'll leave it at that, will not know.
Yeah, fair enough. I still wear my Pat Patriot hat. That's all I got to say. Because I remember when we sucked, Josh, and we're going to suck again. What can I tell you?
You do rep it hard. You put up your emoji or memoji, whatever the fuck they're called, every single Sunday.
The question used to be, who's the quarterback before Brady?
Well, yes, there is always that, Mr. Drew Bledsoe.
Who was the quarterback before
Bledsoe
Brady?
much he had a hemorrhage.
Yep. Oh, he nearly died, man. That was rough. But keeping us back to the Batman and and the hits he delivers and the hits he takes. Let's take it over to our own hit maker here himself, the Three of Clubs, RaShaun. Take it away. Tell us how you liked the Batman.
The Batman.
Speaking of altered weird voices, I am battling the cold right now. I'm a little bit under the weather for our listeners. Whenever you're hearing this, if I don't sound like my normal high-pitched melodic self, then that's why. It's I'm not trying to do the Batman right now. It's just my voice is beaten up because I'm not feeling too good. So I'll do my best to get through this. I am not going to try to be as eloquent
for you.
Bastard. Won't be as eloquent as the Star Child or as deep and verbose as the Birdman, but I'm here to tell you that everything Greg says point for point absolutely wrong. Here's the funny part. It's easy to go with the 7 comparison, and I understand it. It's right there in front of you. It's easy. It's not really hard work. However, the Batman did a lot of work to make sure that that's not the case. Start with the fact that really on the surface, one is about looking for justice. Another one is doesn't believe in justice. In the Batman, which funny enough, it's really a prequel. He's not the Batman in the Batman. He's only really called it in jest by one of the people who thinks of him as a partner, which is part of the reason why this sets it apart from 7. And also, it's not necessarily his moniker. Matter of fact, in the beginning of the movie, he himself calls himself Vengeance. He looks upon himself as Vengeance because most of the movie, he believes what he's doing is setting out for revenge for his parents, who he felt were unfairly taken from him, and also because he felt they were heroes in their own regard. So really what he was doing was trying to basically set up for the martyrdom of his parents and protect it in a very violent way by also trying to do his best to protect what he felt his parents were trying to protect, which was the city. So in a lot of senses, this movie was a prequel. He wasn't the Batman, he was Vengeance, and that actually leads to a very pivotal point in the latter point of the movie. So similar to also another person he finds in the movie is also looking for justice. Riddler is looking for justice in his own mind, and also the person who ends up becoming the Catwoman is looking for her own justice. And if you want to even take it a step further, you can argue that the one sort of supervillain in the Batman canon that's sort of left standing at the end of the Batman, the Penguin, is also in some ways looking for his own justice. He was set up. He was basically in a situation where he felt like his sort of patriarch let him down, and someone who was willing to give his life for. So in a lot of ways, even though it'll be through criminal means, he himself is looking for justice. So we have 3 major characters looking for justice. And really, if you add the Penguin, 4 major characters looking for justice. John Doe wasn't looking for justice in 7. He didn't care about justice. Matter of fact, he was out to prove that justice didn't exist, along with the connection with God. If you go into his background story, it all starts by him seeing a car accident, makes him question God, and then he goes to his own birthplace, his childhood home, finds his mom burning his own childhood keepsakes, things that connected him to whatever humanity he probably still had left, and his mom dies in the flame. That sets off the turn of events that are in 7, which are why they're all biblically linked to the 7 deadly sins. And matter of fact, he himself is part of it. He calls himself envy when he puts the thing in the box. If you haven't seen 7 yet, I won't ruin
What's
it for
in
you.
The box?
God bless you. If you haven't seen it, good on you, I guess, because that is some pop culture hurdling that is something to be lauded. So that moves him to envy. The other crimes that he commits technically aren't necessarily needed of Mills and Somerset. Doesn't matter. He's already done, in some cases, the crimes. In the other cases, he's basically setting up to do it one way or the other. He uses Mills in the sense of making sure that he can get to his step of envy, but frankly, that could have been anyone, because what he was trying to prove was the actual sin of envy, not necessarily his connection to Mills or anything like that. He uses that because he sees the interaction, and then he tries to himself replicate John Doe with Mill's wife. He doesn't do it. So he's envious of what that man has, and he moves to the next step, the last sin, which is wrath. And he uses another person, in this case, Mills, again, to create his sort of opus, his criminal opus of proving that God or justice in a sort of celestial religious sense does not exist. The Batman goes in the opposite direction. Matter of fact, all three of the main characters are setting out to do their best to try to prove that justice exists. The Riddler, in a lot of ways, thinks of himself as a symbiote or akin to another orphan who he himself believes, one way or the other, even though it's not necessarily settled in the movie, is out for justice himself. So he looks to pair with this person, similar to another parasite who may end up in the same body of another parasite, or same body of area of another parasite, and they'll work symbiotically together to move towards an entire goal. He needs vengeance, in this case, Bruce Wayne, to do the things that he needs him to do to move the crimes along. John Doe doesn't need that. Vengeance or Riddler does. He absolutely uses that. And then at the end, I'm not actually sure if he was setting up to try to get caught, but he does get caught fairly easily. And if you pair it up against all the other ways he escaped getting caught, yeah, I can see why we would say he set out to get caught. But either way, he himself, while he's at Arkham, points out that if I don't have the Batman, or in this case, vengeance, and he says vengeance, and he says it to his 500 plus followers, he says vengeance over and over and over. If I don't have this, if I can't utilize this, then I can't move the crimes along. No matter how smart I am, I cannot do this. Matter of fact, his last move the Riddler does with vengeance is he brings the quote unquote rat with wings out into the light so he can kill him, so then he can get caught, Riddler, so then he can point out what the next steps are, which are a couple more steps, and he still needs vengeance to move it along. John Doe did not need that. Matter of fact, by the time he actually sort of meets up with Mills, he's kind of done with 5 of the sins. And really, and this is where the timeline gets a little supernatural in 7, so that's another thing people want to look at. The last couple of sins he pulls off kind of are impossible physically. That being said, he still needs that. That's the only way. But in the Batman, the Riddler absolutely needs vengeance moving along. And that's why when Batman finally catches one of the people committing the terrorist act at the end, or sorry, when vengeance catches him, Bruce Wayne catches this guy and rips off his mask, and he's basically like, "Who are you?" And the guy yells back at him, "Vengeance." That's where it all kicks in for the man. That's when it all understands that just like the Riddler, who's out for his own vengeance, it isn't implicitly implied, although I would point out his glasses are very similar to a journalist, and in fact, similar to sort of a godlike crushing of a defeat of understanding that your parent probably wasn't the hero you thought it was, similar to what Bruce Wayne was. I'm sure the Riddler found out, and part of figuring out who the rat was, that his own journalist father wasn't actually the hero that we all thought he was either. So none of these people were actually set out to be heroes, which set out the vengeance, and which then set out the whole idea of needing to perpetuate these moves. That's how the Batman kind of kicked in. It's funny enough, there's a fan theory that's been kicking around for the last 10 years of what actually the Batman was and how it came about to bring about some of these supervillains. And it moved directly into this sort of premise, where it isn't so much they directly try to create these guys, but in doing so and doing what he felt was right, he ends up having an after effect of this violent wave. No different than, let's say, someone who is psychotically going after what we as a society don't deem as good or justifiable or whatever, but he does. He now has an army looking at the exact same thing from the exact same way and calling themselves this exact same thing. So that's another reason why you can call this movie really the prequel, because it's only at the end that he realizes he cannot walk around calling himself Vengeance anymore. He has to be something greater. He is now the Batman.
I'm just like catching my breath in my throat. That was absolutely nothing short of spectacular. 3 of Clubs, man. That was just good fire. That was just fire incarnate, man. Holy crap. you may not be feeling well today, but you ate your Wheaties. I don't know what you bringing some like Batman type strength here.
It's a lot of cold medicine, and it's
drugs.
That's about it. Drugs. And I didn't even get to point on the fact that comparing it to, because frankly I wasn't sure what we were going to talk about today. I knew it was something Batman, so I wanted to actually compare it to the other movies. I didn't even get a chance to. I do feel like in a lot of ways similar to how, yes, I get how 7 is connection, and I'm not saying the connections aren't necessarily some there. I'm just saying it's not a direct connection. But to me, the Batman, the movie that just came out, is like the Vince Carter dunk contest, where Vince Carter isn't the first person to dunk. He's not the first person to blow our head back with something spectacular. But we all walked away remembering that dunk contest. That was the one that sort of set things apart and moved into a different direction. And also, I just came across an article this past weekend where Tim Burton himself pointed out that the setting that he used for Batman in '89 was actually based off of the neo sort of dystopian future of Brazil, and which actually ends up setting up a weird cascading effect on the rest of the settings that are in all the Batmans directly after, including the animated series. We all basically took Tim Burton's neo dystopian view of Brazil's neo dystopian view and just literally made it canon without actually saying a word, which is hilarious. And I think it's weird that the Lego Batman is the only Batman that's actually got it 100% right.
I gotta say, I mean, wow, there you go. Steal my thunder. But firstly, I wanted to also say you were bringing the fire even before this episode when we were talking about it in general. When you got to see it this week and we were talking, you spotted the use of the color palette being black and yellow, which was absolute genius. And I got to be honest, I watched it the first time and I watched it a second time since then, but I didn't catch the whole vengeance thing being his moniker until you mentioned it. So two more facts you brought even off air that I was like, oh, I'm like, both of them, I'm like, fucking dead on. Both of them. Nicely done, man. Just absolutely killing
I
this shit.
did not think about it until it was in the movie where he used his symbol as a knife. Yep. And then when you put it back, I'm like, oh yeah, that is a V. I'm so weird how I never even picked up on it. And if you look at him from the monster view, because the one thing I did want to talk about is how, like, one of the things I loved about Suicide Squad, and they kind of did this in the Batman, was they flipped things on the head. It made him sort of the bad guy. It's almost like we, the viewers, are rooting for the bad guy. So in that case, flipping on its head, the good guy has to be the bad guy. So if you look at the Batman from the monstrous view that he keeps trying to show and how the movie sets up in the beginning, yeah, I could see I can see how you can either get bat, or if you're looking up, there's a V sort of message that you're looking at. And I didn't even get to how beautiful the scenery was, and the fact that in some of those scenes, especially when it's him and Catwoman, I felt like if the camera just panned a little bit to the left, West Side Story was going on.
Couple of jets and sharks going off on a dance routine shooting on the next fat lock right over.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with some of that. I disagree with most of the points about 7. That, I mean, he wasn't, John Doe was not, he was using the police. He didn't specifically go after Mills and Somerset until Mills and Somerset found his apartment. And then that kind of changed, the conversation for him too. I guess it, whatever made it personal. But he wasn't looking for justice. He was trying to prove the point about God's divine justice.
I said,
and so for him, it wasn't
justice.
It wasn't. Was that?
I said the difference between two movies to start off is one movie, the Batman, I should have been clear, they're looking for justice in the way they thought so. And it does change towards the end of the movie for all characters involved, but they start off by all looking for justice. In 7, he's not looking for justice. He's actually out to prove that God doesn't exist.
Who is?
John Doe.
No.
Yeah, it's literally in his story.
All right. We can do it. We
I didn't read the other notes, but in the movie, that's what he stated that his point is. Like, he's using these 7 deadly sins specifically to show just how shitty the world is because we accept them on a daily basis. And for the I thought that was weird because you're in the movie and it's called the Batman, but no one's calling him Batman. It's fine. I didn't really think I don't care what you call yourself. I mean, you can call the Rocky Horror Picture Show the Seven Samurai if you want to, but motherfucker, we know why we're here. If you took off that cape and those ears and you called yourself Vengeance, this audience wouldn't be here. All right. None of us would have fucking came. So, all right, cool. Your name ain't you're not Batman, man dressed as Bat.
Just yeah.
Well, I think the Riddler is you.
Gives him his moniker, right?
Yeah, the Riddler is you. The Riddler is the guy who we're watching the whole thing like, all right, come on, we don't see this. We don't, come on, we don't see this.
We're not going to talk about it.
We're not going to talk about the ears, dude.
But, you can also make the argument at the discovery that they figure out. Because one of the cool, Josh, I know you got to go. I'll be real fast. One of the cool things that I think is so understated in this movie that just came out was how they try to build up why Batman is the Batman. In the sense of like, one thing I always wonder is like, all right, I can figure out how you got martial arts. Superhuman martial arts? No, I can't. I can figure out how you got super big and like mobile and all that. I can figure out all these different things, but like there's a little part that I always figure out, like, how did you get to like basically super agent level? And then making Alfred basically SIS or whatever the British equivalent is of like the super secret spies, the real ones, making him and then having him be the guy who raises him, I thought was so fucking awesome. Cause like, yeah, I can see that person starting off with such a head start that anything you add on to it would make it feel like almost overwhelming, and I think like superhuman.
And I think one of the reasons I'm, maybe fighting the whole vengeance thing is because for me, that's just going to put another mark on just another notch on why Batman's a moron. If that's the case in this movie, like,
well, he was.
You dress up like wait. All right, you dress up like a bat. You hang out with bats. That's a bat. And,
he doesn't hang out with bats.
You do all this bat stuff, and you never thought, okay, I should just call myself.
He's in a tower. He does. He's on a cave. He's in a tower. He doesn't hang out with bats.
There's a bunch of bats. No, there's a bunch of bats.
There are a bunch of bats. When
he
comes back into the.
But he's not like hanging out with them in the same way. I think it's only like the Riddler basically tried to point out a rat who flies is also a bat.
Well,
dude, man. You are a Batman. Look at me right here. Look at me, okay? Vengeance. Look at me.
I'm gonna come
You're
on
Batman.
in.
Marsupial power.
Marsupial. I'm gonna come on in and Batman my way into this because this has just been some fantastic commentary. There's no two ways, and I don't. I put myself last today. That was probably my first mistake. What can I tell you? But as often is the case, I'm a bit of a synthesis between my two esteemed gentlemen here, where I often see their points because I get to sit and listen to it, so it's a lot of fun. On the vengeance thing, I did notice too, RaShaun, that the Penguin refers to him as Vengeance when we first meet Catwoman, when we first meet Selena Kyle when she comes in. She says, "Vengeance don't bite." So that was further backing up your point there, at least in how he saw himself. And certainly how he kept trying to present himself to the world.
Dude, you're a fucking bat.
You're a bat. You're a fucking bat.
I wish you guys didn't make me see that because now I think he's a real jackass.
Look, him actually trying to stick the landing is still a scene I can't get past. I've watched it 10 times. I've rewound it. I can't figure it out. Why did you pull the ripcord underneath the bridge? Why? You had perfect aim all the way through. You see a bus and you're like, oh, ripcord time.
All right. Well, we're gonna get there. So this film is, firstly, it is an homage. It is heavily homage to Seven. There's no two ways about that. And if you go and you watch, it's very easy to find on YouTube. You watch the deleted scene with the Joker. That would have been the homage to Silence of the Lambs. There is literally a bit with him and the Joker behind glass and him passing him a file on the Riddler, asking for the Hannibal Lecter like moment and that whole thing, which again, I like these things in my Batman movie. You know, the things that I liked about this so much. I am on record in a callback to our most useless villains of the 1970s. I had the Riddler on that list, right? I can take him off that list, at least in the 2020s now, because they used the aesthetic, and the aesthetics through this are nothing short of fantastic. I love the aesthetics of this movie. And the fact that they made the aesthetic of the Riddler, the Zodiac killer from Northern California, right? Even when he first comes on and announces himself officially, he says, this is the Riddler speaking. And the Zodiac always would start his letters, this is the Zodiac speaking. And the few times he was caught on tape, started that way. The only time he was ever seen in public, he wore the exact same kind of executioner's hood that they gave the Riddler in this case, and he had a set of glasses on top of it. So these are pretty common images out there in the zeitgeist. It wasn't like that they reached that deep, but I thought it was a genius pairing, especially because the Zodiac used to like ciphers and was taunting the police with his cipher, police and the San Francisco Chronicle with his ciphers. Like that was the whole thing. He used to say, you can find my identity in here. And some people recently just broke one of the ciphers and believe they found the identity. Still some controversy on that. Yeah, there's societies, still little guys who get together and get meetings on weekends and things like that, trying to break his ciphers, trying to figure out who the Zodiac really was. So I just thought marrying those two mystiques, fantastic. With the other aesthetics, I thought the aesthetic of Gotham was really the best one I've seen. Honestly, I do go back to the Tim Burton one, which is really great. I know, RaShaun, you and I read the same article there, talking about him using Brazil, the film Brazil, and how that kind of goes. I always also felt there was like a little Fritz Lang Metropolis feel to it, that kind of whole Art Deco feel. Great look. I mean, and you're absolutely right. Everybody's kind of played off of it and tried to sort of build off of it. I liked how, and going in the Nolan verses, they kind of kept bouncing the aesthetic around, which annoyed me. Like in the first movie, they don't really give you as much of a solid one. It's all digital. The second movie, they used a lot of real shots of Chicago, but they didn't use the seedy underbelly of Chicago. They used like the middle of downtown where the St. Patrick's Day parade runs through, and where the rivers run cutting right through it. And then in the third one, they used part Chicago, part New York, right? Which has its own, both have their own aesthetic, and I have no problem with them, but like, why are you blending them? And as you said, Greg said before, when we were talking before the show, they dropped into Pittsburgh for the they use Heinz Stadium. And it's so clear. Any of us who are football fans, going back to your, who's a football fan or not, I'm like, that's Heinz Field, right? Most of my family comes from Pittsburgh. I've been there. It's like, it made it so incongruous. Whereas I felt they found an aesthetic in this one, much like the Tim Burton one to that extent. They had an aesthetic and they stuck with it. I feel they based it mostly off of Chicago. You can, I know there's some question. We were talking before about really where Gotham's supposed to be in relation in the DC universe. But I just was saying that they had that kind of aesthetic of Chicago with an elevated train, and just to kind of look at something, some of it and the kind of downtown, but they just made it look like that dirty, seedy underbelly that you're truly trying to go for, this city in decay, the city in disarray. And I really felt they just nailed that, and they just got that absolutely right. From a Batman perspective, I've talked a little bit about how we've always been chasing Frank Miller, and they chase Frank Miller as well. This is Batman Year One. If you read the Batman Year One comic, even Zoe Kravitz looks like they're Selena Kyle. Like the way she's drawn in that, and some of the things she wears, almost identical. So you could almost lay one over the other. There's a couple of subplots they took out gratefully. Jim Gordon has an affair. I didn't need to see that, and we didn't. The other fact of where I should have started this whole thing, what I absolutely loved about this movie is we didn't need to see, and we didn't see the Batman origin story, right? If you're going into a movie called The Batman and you don't know the Batman's origin story by now, fuck you. Get the fuck out of the movie. Right? We didn't have to see that scene of the pearls breaking or whatever. It's been done. We know it. We get it. You're taking out your trauma upon the world, right? This is what you're doing. As RaShaun very astutely points out, vengeance, right? You're righteous vengeance. You're angry as shit. You're angry that your mommy and your daddy got killed, and it's unfair. And you got the money and the know-how to do it. Loved Andy Serkis as Alfred Pennyworth. I agree. He was supposed to be ex-MI6. He refers to it as the circus, which I adore because in all the old spy novels I read, that's how the spies from MI6 talk about it. They call it the circus, that kind of internal name for it. That was great. His fighting style looked a little like Krav Maga. I'll go a little nerdy here. Looked a little like Krav Maga. He's striking on the joints and things like that, But
that was impressive.
I just thought it looked right. It didn't look very particularly pretty. It looks kind of dirty and kind of ugly. They did have to throw in one more homage to the Karate Kid when he first beats the kids up because they're all looking like skeletons. Notice that he's the Mr. Miyagi coming in. Just saying, little reference in there, little Karate Kid reference in there. It's Halloween. All the kids are dressed up. All the bad kids are dressed up like skeletons, and he beats the shit out of them.
I think there's a stretch. I feel like there's a few skeleton Halloween costumes out there. Perhaps not.
I'm just saying,
it
just wouldn't have.
Or Pat Moriarty.
Just saying that he would have, maybe he was a fan at one point in his life. But now going to the point that has come up several times, I absolutely, one of the reasons I love this movie as much as I do was the way he stuck his dick in the dirt when he gets up there. Because we finally see it. Like, it's the moment I've been waiting to see, especially in young Batman's life. He gets up there. He's terrified. It looks like he's scared of heights. He puts on this flying squirrel suit. He is base jumping off, in a major metropolitan area and in a flying squirrel suit, right? And yes, he pulls, honestly, what happened before, but he pulls the ripcord and friggin' just utterly destroys himself on this landing, right? That was just like,
tell him where he pulls the ripcord, because that's
pulls the ripcord under a bridge, gets the parachute stuck on the bridge, slams off the top of a bus, and then limps away. I love how he's actually limping away. Like, did anyone see that? Anybody see it? Am I okay? Am I okay? Okay. All right. We're good.
I'm good.
Okay. We're good. So,
I was supposed to do that.
I was supposed to do that. Absolutely. And I just, it's part of the reason that it elevates the movie as high as it did. But I think the final point, and it could almost be an episode, I think that it really brought home for me just how fucked up it is that he is my favorite superhero and that I'm cheering for him the whole time. Because as it's seen when he walks into an active crime scene and all of the police are just scowling at him, and understandably so. They're like, what the fuck is this freak job doing here, right? You just let some B&D S&M dude walk into the middle of an active crime scene, poke the fuck around, and walk the fuck out, right? No problem whatsoever. What is going on? At worst, he got a tongue lashing from his superiors, right? So
that case is being thrown right the fuck out as soon as it goes to court.
Without
a thrown out. Right. It's getting thrown right the fuck out.
I wasn't gonna hop in, but Star Child hopped in. So now I feel like I hopped in. Like, I both love that scene and hate that scene because one, or maybe it's just one of the crime scenes after, but one of the detectives or officers yells out, "Well, Captain, what about chain of evidence?" Which is awesome and a great line,
absolutely
and a great
true
thought
point.
process.
Yes,
but again, this is where we get in trouble with superhero movies and why I just think we just need to roll with it. It's okay, if we're going to go with that line of logic of what is real and what's not in this reality setting, how do we get to the reality where the vigilante, who is woefully outside of the law and basically someone these individuals should be arresting on site, letting him walk into that area? So before we even get to breaking down what happens to the criminal justice system after what part of evidence was tampered with or not, we're going to have to answer a few more questions before we get there.
Well, I don't disagree with you. And it was just, at least, in the end, of course, it's a movie. Willful suspension of disbelief, and we give it is, like, in all honesty, when he fucks up like that with that, his ribs are broken. I don't know if he's ever walking again. So right, we get there. I get that. I mean, I get that, right? I'm totally with you. And in the end, of course, it's a movie. We have to. But it gave me that moment. It gave me that pause of like, wait, is Batman's first name Kyle? Like, what the fuck? Like, what am I cheering for here? Like, what is going on here? So it's at least, but that's why I still give this movie the high marks that I do, because it made me sit there and watch that and maybe think about these questions, which is what this entire show's about, which is what I enjoy, right? Is pulling this odd ass subtext from things and wondering, I really enjoyed hearing a cop say, what about chain of evidence? What the fuck, right? How are we going to make a case when his defense attorney is simply just going to say, hey, you let some guy looking like the Gimp from Pulp Fiction walk in here and touch everything. What the fuck's going on here?
The Gimp wishes he looked like that.
I mean, without a doubt, without a doubt. I didn't even get to talk about why the cape, to be quite honest with you. Like there, in the Nolan verse, there was a reason for the cape. Here, I'm still not so sure. Even with the flying squirrel suit didn't seem that attached to it. But I'm giving it an A- because I really still enjoyed it. I really did.
Ooh,
I like the aesthetic, all of those things. It was all those homages, but you know what? That's what I want from these things. Like I want that much. I kind of want that kind of effort, even if your effort is trying to rip something else off. I want you to put that kind of effort into my superhero movies. I want you to try that hard.
Birdman, what's your top Batman movie grade, and to what movie does it go to? Is A- like do a few of them have A-, or is there one that stands above the rest?
Nah, the only other one that gets that high a mark is the Dark Knight, the second piece in the Nolan verse, and
okay.
And I give it, if I give it an edge, it's because of Heath Ledger's performance, which I thought was absolute fucking genius. I thought it totally deserved the Oscar. He scared me. He legit gave me goosebumps and scared the shit out of me in that. And that's hard to do. So
it's a 94 versus a 92, but both are A-. Are any
exactly.
Any A's?
Probably the favorite, the full A I give is actually The Killing Joke, which was the animated. It comes off the comic book. It was a direct translation of the comic book. Mark Hamill plays the Joker in that one, which of course was a seminal comic book piece as well. It really introduced a different level of violence, and there's a lot of questions and a lot of things, even post Me Too and victimization of women, that is a part of it for sure. So it's sensitive subject matter, trigger warnings, but I thought that was one of the best adaptations I've ever seen. And I really liked, I liked seeing Mark Hamill get a chance to do that Joker as well, in his voice, in his case there. So that may be one of my top, that's probably my top Batman was that version of it. It's an R-rated cartoon. So, if anybody's out there listening with the kids, just keep it and just consider it, before you take the family out.
I didn't, I think if anything, the only reason I would say that I'm not crazy about the beat for beat, for me, as soon as I see the beat for beat, it just gets boring to me.
Keep sneaking in there.
Like there's a who and a what. I have no idea where I put that. But when it just gets boring to me. Like I just feel like that kind of an homage is one thing. Like I can completely understand an homage, like Kurosawa. Like there are a million homages to shots and moments and Kurosawa movies. Completely get that. And you know what? Good on you. That's exactly who you want to pay an homage to. But a beat for beat ripoff always gets me bored. I just can't, do it. Like just call it a remake. And I think that was an interesting part where he was walking through and the police were just kind of looking at him, and you were like, and I remember sitting and watching it and being like, we're doing this? Like he's just gonna walk right in? Like he's walking right in. And that's when you knew they were going to take a different look at this. Because usually, the police do what they do, and then Batman sneaks in later and he, checks out the scene. It was like, nope, he's walking right in with Gordon.
So
right in.
What gets your top grade and why? And also this further proves my point in the sense of even the police look at him as a vigilante. the Batman that we all are introduced to, even in the beginning of the series, if you go back to the beginning of literally the iconic series that has created Batman, he's introduced as a hero. So those are two different things. They're trying to basically say this is how he becomes the person that the police are okay showing up in a crime scene. But what gets the top Batman grade for you? I'm just curious and why.
For Batman movies, I think Tim Burton's Batman. You can't make these movies because the reason that we're asking this, these questions about like evidence and shit, is because you can't make these movies too grounded. And I think that he got that. Like it's the right amount of camp, it's the right amount of over the top action. I think Jack Nicholson gets it, because one of the reasons why I still like Jack Nicholson's Joker over Heath Ledger's Joker is like, oh my God, the monologuing. Like for a guy without a plan, you are monologuing. Fucking Richard III doesn't have monologues like he goes off on. And, that just, I mean, for me, like, yeah, you're saying that you don't have a plan. It's like, motherfucker, you just lace this entire city with bombs. You can't do that without a plan, so just, things like that. So he's not like the Joker, Jack Nicholson's Joker. By the end of the movie, you still don't know what the hell he's doing. He doesn't know what he's doing. And I like that about it. So for me, yeah, 1989 Batman.
I had Prince, let's face it. So, we know you're going to lean in hard on that one.
XYZ. Dun, 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 dun.
The sad truth, Josh, as much as I should have, I didn't even make that connection when I was asking the question.
It's all good, but I would, this is
just to make it more perfect.
This is just one of those things, and that's it. That's why we all got to have our preference, and that's the fun of it. And that's what brings us here.
Yeah, well, kiss from a rose.
Another very successful. Goddamn, guys, you brought the steam today, both of you. You guys, I feel like I was hanging off.
We can't cut out yet because RaShaun's got to give us his like number one, which Batman movie gets an A.
What was your top Batman?
I'm way more lenient about these things than you guys. So for me, I would have the A's be 89 Batman, then Dark Knight Rises. That's the one with Heath Ledger, right?
Right. Yeah. Or Dark Knight. Dark Knight's the
Dark Knight.
Dark Knight Rises is the third one in that. But
sorry. Oh God, no, not that one. Dark Knight. Dark Knight, and this new Batman. I think those are the ones to get the top ones. I also am of the ilk who believe that the other Batmans in part get a bad rep because people keep expecting different things and not willing to take Batman in all forms. And I also, and you guys have well documented this, I have a problem when we go into realism in any real shape or form past what the movie wants to tell us when it comes to superheroes. The premise in itself is no longer real. So whatever the movie wants to tell us, that's what we should just go with and enjoy the movie on its face.
And that, that's honestly, that's 100% legit. I think it's like, that's cool. And that's the fun we have here, is getting that different perspective, where it overlaps, where it changes, where we agree, where we disagree. So I feel you there. There's a lot to be said for that. That's like, hey, it's a fucking superhero movie, man. And how serious are you gonna take it?
And since someone got his cheap shots, and I'm gonna get my cheap shot, and for the both of you, look, we have to ask ourselves a quick question, and that's like, how far do we want to take the direct comparison of any movie that shows up where it's dark most of the time, the setting is dark, it's at night, it involves police, and the murder is usually clues to push the plot along? I mean, it gets to a point where every movie under a certain category will fall into that. And same thing with like homage. It's almost impossible not to have some sort of influence when things have already happened 150 years back, decades back. We still talk about Willie Shakes. So I think we need to pump the brakes on when things become, familiar or beat for beat, because we're basically watching the same medium over and over and over, similar to the hero story in every book that we read.
There's a difference. There's a difference between sampling and stealing. There's a difference between you know, me enjoying the hors d'oeuvre you offer me at your house and me stealing your car. There's a difference between, there's a huge difference between me quoting a line from William Shakespeare and me saying I wrote Richard III. No, there's a difference. There's a difference. It's just, there's a fucking difference.
Sure, if you're eating steak at Applebee's or Ruth's Chris, you're still eating steak. So at a certain point, you need to back up.
Applebee's ain't meat.
I am pumping.
I worked there for 6 years. Applebee's ain't meat, dude. Did you pay for that? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Right. Yo, I'm gonna tell you right now, y'all didn't lose weight. We never got that Weight Watchers meal once right. We never got it right once. Like never. Like we never.
Now the lid has been blown off officially.
Yeah. In case you're wondering why the scale it wasn't the scale. Yeah, we never made that shit right. We never made it right.
I'm gonna pump the brakes on this and say now is the winter of our discontent. And bring it on in for that landed. But we are once again, we're recording a little bit early this week again because I'm getting out of here and I'm taking off to cosplay some serious Star Wars. Yeah, I fucking said it. I'm overpaying for it, and that's that. Going to an evil empire to do it, nevertheless. But so taking it off into the future here. 3 of clubs. What do you think you got on for the rest of this week going into the weekend?
Well, in light of your upcoming travels, and safe travels to you and yours, man. Come back to us in one piece.
Safe travel.
And make sure you wear some underwear underneath those Jedi robes. But I would like to go ahead, camera, zoom in on me. This is the point where I'm not going to call you out, Vin Diesel. You have enough problems. I saw what's coming up for your next movie, bro. Do better. But Star Wars. Take note from this movie. You can even use the same surname. Just give us a different story. Like the Batman, they didn't go into the whole like this is how Bruce Wayne's parents got killed, so this is how we're gonna go. They showed a different story of what happened with Bruce Wayne's parents that gave him another part of his motivation. Star Wars is right there, man. Just try harder, please.
Well, I'm going to thank you for your piece of advice. Well, I will quote George Lucas directly. There's no underwear in space. That's what he told Carrie Fisher anyway, but we know why he told her that. So, I mean, but a direct quote, famous thing that Carrie Fisher did say. So
you want to align yourself with George Lucas. You be my guest.
I'm going to wear underwear in space. That's how that's going to go. No one needs to see. No one needs to see that. That's all I'm saying. Like,
no one needs to see your Chewbacca.
Nope. No one going there. Yeah, no one needs to see that. Exactly. You know, even though I'm part Wookiee, we all know that. Also known as Ashkenazi Jew, but that's the truth. All right. Star Child, what you doing as taking off into the rest of this week and into the weekend?
Oh, I mean, the week's just starting. So, you know, I'm fitting in just lots of family visits. And I'm going to thank you guys for my new joke. Everyone is going to think I am so fucking funny this week when I point out the fact that this moron wandering around in a Batman costume, in a bat costume, don't think he's a bat. This asshole. This guy runs around in a suit looking like a bat. As a bat. But he doesn't think he's Batman. He never thinks to call himself Batman once. He thinks he's Vengeance. So that's good. It's going to be my joke for the week, and I thank you guys for it.
Well, you are quite welcome. We love to give here on the Steve Gentleman, and as I stated, I'm off to wonderful Florida. That interesting state that it is. That Florida just leads, I'll give it this, man. A good friend of mine moved down there from Buffalo, so he much prefers the weather. He immigrated here from Israel, and he's just, they lean into that shit. That's all I'm saying, right? If your state is associated with meth gators, and you are cool with that, then fuck yeah, that's how that's gonna go. I am going to, as I say, the heart of the evil empire itself, and I'm gonna run around and gonna build myself a lightsaber and gonna build some droids with my kids, and that shit's gonna happen. That's just the way that is. I'm gonna sleep just fine at night. That's okay. So We do ask you, head on over to Apple iTunes, rate, review us, all that stuff. We really are hoping for that 5-star rating, and we're really hoping you can push us into the algorithms and get all that out there. We are the Steam Gentleman Podcast on Facebook. We are Even Steam Bro on Instagram. We're the Steam G's at Twitter. Is that right, RaShaun? I keep asking, but hoping I'm getting it right.
Yeah. Well, it's still this man's Twitter.
That's right. Well, hey, I would have it no other way. If you want to send us an email, we are gevensteambro@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. Love to hear what's going on. We want to, this is a big inclusive nerd kingdom here. We go into all kinds of subjects of pop culture and social commentary. But we're going to sign off now. And in the meantime, this is Josh the Birdman telling you to keep that heat up and keep your head of steam on.